My name is Zach Evans. I'm an attorney at Woods & Woods in Evansville, Indiana. One of the questions that we get fairly often from surviving claimants, oftentimes widows, is how is COVID-19 or my deceased spouse's contraction of COVID-19 likely to impact my ability to obtain the death benefits that I'm owed by the VA. This is a common concern as COVID-19 has interrupted nearly everyone's life globally. It's no different with the surviving spouses of veterans. Unfortunately, what we've seen with our death benefit claims is that a significant number of veterans have been impacted by COVID-19. So a lot of our claims that we deal with here at Woods & Woods are specifically cause of death claims. And those are the types of claims that are really impacted by COVID-19 diagnosis and the progression of the disease. If your spouse dies and the death can be service-connected, you may be eligible for these cause of death payments. COVID-19 complicates death benefit cases in a pretty unique way. As hospitals are overwhelmed, patients are hospitalized, and some of them unfortunately succumb to the disease. There's a real question as to what is the ultimate cause of a person's death after they've contracted COVID-19 and the disease has progressed. So one way that we look at assessing a cause of death on a DIC type claim or a death benefit claim is to look at, of course, the death certificate. So the death certificate is going to list potentially multiple causes of death. So you have the primary cause of death, which might be pneumonia, septic shock. It might be, in another type of case, ischemic heart disease, coronary artery disease. And then after that, you'll have secondary causes of death. In these COVID-19 cases, we're seeing sometimes these death certificates only list COVID-19, but that doesn't really capture the entire picture of what's happened to this veteran. COVID-19 cases have unique challenges. On the surface, it seems simple. The vet succumbed to the virus, and it's an open and shut case for the VA regional office, unfortunately. At least that's how they treat it. The reality is, when you get into someone's medical history, you can see a lot of other interwoven factors that played into the morbidity of this disease. Think about what we've learned since the onset of this pandemic. Think about the people who have had the most difficulty fighting this disease and who are most likely to suffer from complications. Think about what happened in early 2020 in early hotspots like Italy and New York City. Who was most at risk? What conditions were most likely to contribute to the onset of severe COVID-19 from the SARS-CoV-2 virus? Why are some people more susceptible than others? At the beginning of the pandemic, before vaccines, older populations were hit particularly hard, especially people with medical conditions. Some conditions make it much more difficult to recover or survive a COVID-19 infection. Some examples of these are systemic conditions like diabetes mellitus, hypertension, heart diseases, kidney diseases, liver disease, cancer, compromised immune systems or immune deficiencies, obesity, and asthma. Now, I want you to think about the types of diseases that are commonly suffered, unfortunately, by veterans. A high number of Vietnam veterans are in this group, specifically due to exposure to substances like Agent Orange. A lot of Agent Orange veterans ended up developing diabetes, hypertension, related disorders like ischemic heart disease, also known as coronary artery disease. So think about this. I want you to think about the medical history of your deceased spouse. I want you to think about whether they had insulin resistance issues. Were they hypertensive? Were they on antihypertensive drugs? Was there a history of heart attack? Was there a history of heart attack in the family? Was it a heart attack that was listed as the initial cause of death with underlying COVID-19 on the death certificate? If you aren't sure, we can definitely take a look at that for you, and we can ferret out what all of the potential causes of death were. It's not just the virus that kills people. It's usually a combination of the virus and other factors, other medical conditions. Another condition that's commonly associated with COVID-19 complications is asthma. Now we need to think about the types of veterans that are likely to develop asthma or have been exposed to certain types of substances or chemicals that lead to asthma. So think about military occupational specialties where someone was exposed to a lot of solvents, a lot of heavy cleaning compounds, especially Gulf War veterans, Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom veterans who were exposed to burn pits. The VA is starting to recognize, finally, that asthma is a common complication of exposure to these burn pits. So when the US military and contractors are throwing all types of substances into these large pits and burning them, and there's all these exhaust gases from the flames that are wafting over bases and through convoys, our veterans were breathing this in, and a lot of them are coming home with asthma. And if you served in one of these conflict areas and you developed asthma and then you contract COVID-19, your prognosis is significantly poorer than someone with a healthy lung function that doesn't suffer from that restrictive lung disorder. Another condition that significantly complicates COVID-19 is obesity. We have a lot of clients who unfortunately suffer from this condition as a result of orthopedic ailments that they sustained while they were in the military. So think back into your spouse's history. Was there a severe knee injury while they were fast roping out of a helicopter? Did they have a back injury or a severe back strain that followed them even after they left service as a paratrooper? Sometimes even on-base, non-forward operating members of the military can suffer severe back injuries from lifting too much, working long hours, seated for a long time in a chair, in an administrative position. And if these types of orthopedic injuries can make it more difficult for someone to keep the weight off and more difficult for them to lead an active lifestyle, they are also at a higher risk of COVID-19 complications. Now Blue Water vets are starting to see Agent Orange awards as well. Think about your husband's military records. Look at the DD-214. We can take a look at that for you. What we're looking for is a ship that served within 12 nautical miles of the coast of the Republic of Vietnam. If this is so, then your deceased veteran spouse may be eligible for presumptive Agent Orange exposure. This means that the conditions that are associated with Agent Orange can also be service-connected or can be considered a step towards service-connecting the cause of death. The reason for me discussing all of these conditions, and not just COVID-19, is that you can win a cause of death award as a surviving spouse, not only if COVID-19 is the primary condition, but if your veteran spouse suffered from other ailments that made it more difficult to recover from COVID-19. So if the picture of health was significantly complicated by these service-connected ailments, you may have a claim that's winnable, even if COVID-19 was the ultimate deciding factor. When a VA regional office tells you, essentially, COVID killed this vet, this isn't the end of the analysis. As we've discussed, COVID interacts with other medical conditions. This virus does not operate on an island. The condition of the body and the immune system plays a huge role in fighting this disease. In COVID-19 cases, the death certificate may not tell the whole story. Other medical conditions may not be listed. We've seen these denials before. They continue to arrive in our office. What we need is to get a doctor on the case and explain to the VA how these conditions have interacted with a COVID infection. My name is Zach Evans for Woods & Woods Attorneys. If you've been denied service-connected death compensation benefits as a surviving spouse, go online or give us a call.